Howdy y'all, Fuzzy Biker here at the famous tree in the middle of the road. Check this out. This is a famous landmark in Audubon County, or is it Cass County? I think this might be on the county line, not too sure about that. Tree's been here since the beginning of time. The story is the landscaper surveyor stuck a stick in the ground here and it grew into a tree, and it's always been here. It's been here ever since, 150 years. The motorcycle we're on today is this absolutely amazing. It's the best word I can use to describe it. Honda CRF 450 RL. It's a real powerhouse of a bike. It's just been an incredible thing to ride. I don't have the skill sets to take a proper advantage of it, but I'm trying my best. I've been on a bunch of pavement with it. I've been on a bunch of gravel with it. I've been on a little bit of dirt road with it. We'll take it out for a spin here in a little bit. But so what is it? It's a 449.7 cc Unicam engine with 12-to-1 compression. What is Unicam? Well, it's a single cylinder engine, liquid cooled. It's got a single cam. It's got 4 valves with a single cam, so 1 camshaft. I think it's in the front, and then it's got rocker arm. With that camshaft has 4 lobes, and it's got rocker arms to go over to the other 2 valves. So Unicam, 1 cam, 4 valves. It's like having a dual overhead cam engine, but it's kind of a hybrid in between the two. Of course, it's liquid cooled. Here's the radiator right here. I don't know if there's a radiator on the other side or not. Thermostat, I think, right there. Water pump right there. Got this kind of a neat armored side case. I don't know if that's for sound deadening or what that is. Oh, I just noticed. I think that's a brake pedal adjuster right there. Amazing aluminum frame and swing arm. And I'm told this is foam filled to cut down on vibration and dampen sound. But it's just really quite a motor. I've looked for specs on power, and I've come up with 2 different numbers. One was a fellow that it was Big Rock Motor or something like that. They claimed he found a guy that had a dyno test of 38 horsepower and 30 foot-pounds at the rear wheel, and that's about 40 newton meters. I found another website that claimed it had 53 horsepower and 35 foot-pounds or 48 newton meters at the crank. Now, which one of those numbers is accurate, I don't know. It has plenty of power, I'll tell you that. It's got this amazing show of 49 millimeter fork. Look at the size of that tube. It's just humongous, with 12 inches of travel, 12 inches of up and down travel. That's 300 millimeters. The tire is, according to my paper here, an 80-121. I was looking at the tire itself, and I think it says it's a 90-90-21, so the owner must have changed that. It's, what brand is the tire? Tusk, it says Tusk right there. Disc brake, the disc brake itself is a 260 millimeter on the front. It's got this nifty disc protector on there. Dual piston Nissan right there. It's just gorgeous. They're fully adjustable. I have not adjusted them in any way because, well, it's not my bike. But there's adjusters up here on both sides. And I think there's something on the bottom. Yeah, right here. You can see the marks right there. So, you know, and look at that disc back there on spokes. Of course, tube tires, it's a tube tire. You know, right there alone, look at all the technology just right in that whole area right there, you know. Amazing. Talking to the owner, and I did drive this a little bit last night, a little bit in the dark, but that headlight, according to the owner, is just one of the best headlights out there. You know, you can always use more headlight on a motorcycle, but he said this one's pretty darn good. Jumping over here to the rear, it's got the monoshock system. Honda has a name for that, and I found it, but I didn't understand what they meant. It's a link system. I can see that down here. You know, aluminum swing arm, of course. Again, about 12 inches of travel, about 300 millimeters. So, you know, loads of travel up and down on this thing. I mean, look at this distance here. You know, I mean, that's just phenomenal, isn't it? Now, the bike, when I got on it, it didn't sag. I've rode other bikes similar to this, KTM 535. When I got on that bike, it kind of settled down quite a bit. This one does settle down, but just not as much as you'd expect. And it does handle really well, so I'm pretty happy with that. Oh, ground clearance on the bottom is 12.6 inches or about 320 millimeters. Oh, and the rear tire is supposed to be a 120/80/18. Let's see what it says here. 120/90/18. So it's got a little bit bigger tire in the back too. Seat height on this hot rod in stock form would be 37.2 inches. Now I think this one's a little taller. I think it's 38. So in stock form would be 945 millimeters. That's one of the tallest bikes I've ever rode. I mean, fuel tank is 2 gallons, which is 7.5 liters. Wheelbase, and this amazed me, wheelbase is 58.9 inches. That's 1,496 millimeters. I thought it was shorter than that, and I think it feels shorter because you sit so high up in the air. When I give this thing the gas, I lean forward, you know, because I'm afraid the front wheel will come off the ground. And when I lean back, the front wheel does come off the ground. So, you know, it is very reactive that way. Wet weight on this thing is supposed to be 291 pounds. That's with a full tank of fuel. That's 132 kilograms. Now this one might be a little lighter. He's done some add-ons to it. He's put this Yoshimura pipe on it. I think that's supposed to cut off something like 10 pounds. I don't know what else he's done to it. He's put this tail tidy on it. He's put this amazing seat concept seat, and it is very comfortable. I rode this thing, well, several miles. I rode it over 20 miles just to get here this morning. And I was not uncomfortable as far as the seat goes. Now you're out in the wind, you're up in the air, you know, that kind of thing is different. But I'm very impressed with it, very impressed with it. It's quite a machine. So let's give it a little bit of a look over, you know. It's got the tall beak fender, this kind of a headlight thing here. Not sure what that means. Y'all know what that means, let me know. Stock handguards. I already mentioned the aluminum frame. Just check this thing out. Look at that tall back end right there. Check that whole thing out. It's just amazing. All the little details. I mean, this is about as high performance as it gets, isn't it? I love it. There is radiator on this side. You can see it right back there, and here's the fan right here. Anyway, it's quite a motorcycle. Jumping up here to the dash. So this is kind of an interesting thing. That looks very minimalist to me, right? I rode a KTM, I mentioned that earlier, that actually had a much smaller dash than that. So by dirt bike standards, that's probably pretty good. You know, you don't really need that kind of thing when you're riding a bike like this out in the middle of nowhere. You don't really need a lot of information. There's no tachometer. It's got a speedometer. I could not find a fuel gauge on it. It has trip meters, you know, AB, mileage, averages, things like that. It's got a clock on it, and you know, it's a very minimal amount of stuff on there. Again, here's the adjusters right here. Oh, look at this big old clutch adjuster, so you can do that if you need to. Pylos for the lights, press for flash to pass, horn, blinkers. Honda puts the horn up here and the blinkers down here. He's got this aftermarket mirror on here. I can't read that word, but that's what it is. And it actually works pretty good. I had this bike going, well, I had to go a little over 80 this morning, but anything over 70, it's just a vibration, you know, it just quivers. He's got this GET system here. That's a little computer thingy. Supposed to smooth out the throttle and, you know, help with that kind of stuff. The throttle was pretty smooth. I read a lot of stuff about how jerky the throttles were on this, and that has not been my experience, and I'm guessing it's because he has this added to it. I'm sure the rear shock is adjustable also. It is, I'm sure, I just don't know how to do it. The suspension on this is, to my amateur eye, a pretty darn good suspension. I've been very impressed with this motorcycle in every single way. Look at that kickstand. And you know what I think? I think I'm going to put this camera up and we're going to take this little hot rod for a ride. Wahoo! It makes a good sound. It doesn't sound super loud, but when I've been riding with it, it's an interesting thing. In town, people look from quite a ways away, so it either makes an interesting sound or a very loud sound that I'm not aware of. So it's got interesting tires on it in that I've ran a bunch of gravel on it and a bunch of dirt like this, and it seems to do pretty good. You know, it grabs pretty darn well, and it doesn't get pushed around pretty easy. Now, speaking of getting pushed around, the wind, today we've got quite a wind, I'm sure you noticed. When I was heading east to get out here, the wind was coming from the north, and it was really playing with the bike on the road. And I think that goes back to the lightweight. You know, the bike weighs 291 pounds in stock form, and it's also a very tall motorcycle. Okay, so how do you sit on the bike? Well, I'm sitting almost upright. I feel like I'm in the middle of the motorcycle. It spins, you know, if you lean forward, it'll spin. If you lean back, it wheelies a little bit. Or a lot of it, depending on how much you want to go. Driving it around town is a lot of fun. You got to watch the curves a little bit because you're so high. You know, if you corner at such and such a speed, you might want to go a little slower in town, you know, 90-degree corners. Maybe that's just me, I don't know. I love this old bridge. One day the boards are going to give up on it and they're going to shut it down at some point. One of my favorite bridges in the county. Let's stop here for a minute and take a look. I've seen all kinds of animals here before, but nothing today, by golly. It's got loose boards. It'll spin the tire at will. It'll just do that, you know. It's got loads and loads of power. I mean, I would love to have this for a, you know, own one for a month, and you could just do anything with it. There's so much to learn with it. It's so far above my ability, you know, and it just goes over these big bumps like nothing, you know. You could climb a rock wall with this thing. It'll do everything but climb trees. Simmer down, simmer down. So as it is so tall, and as it is that I can hardly reach the ground, it's quite a challenge in the rough stuff as far as worrying about getting your feet down. So if you ride a bike like this, you have to really commit to your line. You don't want to have to stop in the middle of the line where there's a big hole, because you will fall over. Now the bike is made to be picked up. It's lightweight. It's got handles on the side, places to, you know, stick your hands in to get her going. Hey, we got some traffic here. So it's made to do that, and it's, you know, there's a minimal amount of stuff that can actually break when it falls over. People that have these and take them out into the rough, they expect to drop it, you know, at least once in a day, if not several times. Well, look at this thing. It just eats these marbles up. It's amazing how stable it feels. Now this right here is one of the oldest cemeteries in Audubon County, and this is where Nathaniel Hamlin is buried. Now who's Nathaniel Hamlin? He was the first person credited with building a structure in Audubon County in 1851, and I really think it's a shame that Audubon County isn't called Nathaniel Hamlin County or Hamlin County. The guy should be given credit. He came here with nothing, and he developed and, you know, prospered in this community, did all kinds of neat stuff. Back to how it handles. So in town, I already talked about that a little bit. On the highway, 2-lane blacktop, stuff like that, it's really, it'll do it. It's okay. It's really not that comfortable. It's not uncomfortable, but it's certainly not comfortable, you know. It's not the bike you want to spend more than an hour on that kind of stuff, I would think. You know, I don't think this bike has ABS. I haven't read anything that says anything about that. Maybe it does, I'm not sure, but as we cross the marbles back there. Okay, simmer down, simmer down. Interstate, just stay off the interstate. I did have this bike, I think I had it going 83 miles an hour. And so yeah, you can go the interstate, but I would stay off, especially on a windy day. It does have a wide gear ratio, 6-speed transmission, and I think the gearing is excellent on this thing. It always seems to be in the right gear. It's got plenty of torque. It's an amazing engine. Let's talk about that for just a second. I forgot to mention the maintenance intervals on this thing. So oil changes are every 600 miles, I think, and valve adjustments are every 1800 miles, valve checks. So a lot of stuff on the internet about how you don't have to do it, blah, 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 blah. Well, I don't think it'd be that hard to check the valves, so I would go ahead and do it. And as far as the oil goes, oil's cheap. How about handling on these kind of roads? Well, it's king of this kind of road. It really is. It'll just eat this alive. It's made for much, much rougher than this. It's got great handling. You know, the suspension is, it's just a baby on this road, you know. This is nothing for it. It's really made for trail riding. Look at the dust blowing up there. You know, let's go that way today. And it feels incredibly stable. It's just, the harder you ride it, the better it works. I have a feeling that's a result of the suspension. It's got a wonderful suspension, and the motor is just a dream. Incredibly responsive, and we have not put this in high yet. I don't know if I have the I don't know if I want to do that. I think I'll skip that for now. Maybe later, maybe later. It's a fun bike. How about braking? I love the brakes on it. So far, so good. You know, it's a light machine. It's got these discs that are, what I say, 260 in the front. They're Nissans. I think they're Nissans forward and rear. The calipers. I think it's got, you know, more than adequate brakes. I think of this as a very high performance 450cc hot rod motorcycle. You know, it just, I mean, look at this. We go over these humps in the gravel. It doesn't even react to them. It's just that good. You know, with the knobby tires and the great suspension, and it's just a very sure-footed machine in that sense. So suspension, great. Power, awesome. Did I talk about seating position? I think I did. Upright. Your knees feel a little lower than your hips. Your heels feel like they're slightly behind your knees. It's easy to stand on. Oh, that actually is really good. I could live on a bike like this. I really could. If I lived somewhere where there was a lot of riding, that this would be a good, you know, like Colorado, the mountains, someplace like that. This would be a very good bike to have in those kind of areas. For normal gravel road riding like this, it's quite a bit of motorcycle for that. You know, it's really overkill, but it's still a lot of fun, right? It's a grin. It's an absolute grin. You know, I only have a 2-gallon tank. I wonder how much gas I burned up. I've got 27 miles. I better be thinking about fuel. You have to tame it down just to get out, keep it from spinning. It's a fun machine. It's an awful lot of fun. Trail riding with this, you know, you come up on a log, you could jump over it. You know, it up a hill, down a hill, in the rocks. This would be amazing in the rocks. You know, a trail or no trail, you could make your own. I am very impressed, like I'm saying, you know. It just sings. It just sings. I like it. Me gusta mucho. So is this an ADV? No, absolutely not. This is a dual sport. Now, why do I say that? I think of an ADV like my Royal Enfield Himalayan, my 452. That's my base bike right now. I think of that as a bike that can do this, that can do interstate, that can do, you know, I can get on that bike, drive 600, 700 miles to Colorado, go out in the BDRs in Colorado and do a lot of stuff. This will do more stuff out in the rough, but the Himalayan will do quite a bit of it already. And I just don't think this is the kind of bike that you would want to ride more than 100 miles of pavement on. I don't think you'd want to ride more than 50 miles of pavement on it, honestly. It doesn't have the right tires. You sit in a bad spot. It's got no wind protection to speak of. So no, this is not an ADV. I think this is an excellent dual sport. You know, it's the kind of bike you can drive on roads like this and get you to the place if it's within a reasonable distance. Or you can truck it there and just have all kinds of fun when you get there. And it just spins the tire at will. It's a real fun motorcycle. How would I compare this to the Himalayan? Well, I think I just did. The Himalayan is more of a true ADV. Himalayan weighs about 130 pounds more than this. Something like that, 140 pounds more. So, you know, they're really two different kinds of bikes. The Himalayan in the wind today would have been a breeze, not a problem at all. Where with this, I was getting blown around. You know, I had that south wind, I was heading east. It's a fun bike. It's really a fun motorcycle. I am really enjoying it. And I want to thank Rich for lending it to us. That was awful nice of him. I thought I was going to have it for the afternoon. He dropped it off and said, take it for the week. So I love it when that happens. How does this compare to the 250 that I rode earlier, or to the CFR 250, or to my buddy Mark's 300? This has quite a bit more power, and it's actually also lighter. Those bikes are friendlier than this bike, I think, a little more user-friendly, a little easier, but you know, which one would I get? Would I get this one or that one? Right now I'm riding this one, so I would tell you I'd get this one, but the reality is I would probably be happier with the 300 or the 250, as long as the suspension was up to the task. This thing here has an excellent suspension. I have a feeling that's where a lot of the money is. Okay, my friends, we have made it to the mighty town of Exira, Iowa. This once was the county seat of Audubon County. That has now moved down the road about 9 miles north. I think what I'm going to do is shut the camera off, go get some fuel in this little hot rod, and go motorcycle riding. It's a beautiful day here. If it's a beautiful day where y'all are at, get yourselves out there and ride, my friends. Life is grand. Life is grand. Wahoo!
Once you get used to it, it's pretty easy. Pick it up and then click yourself back to first. There you go.
Nice.
You go into a parking lot and do that, people look at you like, what?